going, Lipsey?
Oh, that's a good shot. What do you have to say?
Nice day, pretty hot. Gonna be a lot out.
This is summer.
This is summer.
Hey Trails Collective, Ian here for the weekly rundown for July 22nd, 2020. Bringing you a bit about what's shaken in the trail scene in the Northeast, as well as some of the media, distilling it a bit for you of what's out there. So we opened with a clip this week from Matt Lipsey, a few of the video images coming in from Prowl the Sproul 10K, one that drew a pretty large crowd in the 200s in one of the few events that's being able to run these days. Had some of their own modifications of their own this year and having to switch from Heiner to a really freaking large private parcel in PA. But looks like they had a beautiful, if not hot day. I think Lipsey took the win there, at least on the men's side. Results not posted yet, and maybe we'll get some more images in a bit if Matt happens to assemble some good clips there. So Matt, thanks for those videos and nice work to the crew down there, and hopefully putting on what was a fun and hopefully safe event as well. I think masks for entrance ahead of the start, but with runners not wearing them during the event, which is what kind of played out in the video images. Some others that did run, we saw the Smallfoot Trail Fest 5K go in Troy, PA. Wonderful kids event. We had the Goshen Gallop go in Goshen, Vermont. Went off with 4 waves of 25 runners. Also looked like a beautiful day out there. No results yet posted. There was the Night Owl 9K in Williamsburg, Virginia. 161 finishers. Roger Hopper from Chesapeake, Virginia took the overall win in 35:24. And for the ladies, Megan Schultz from Glen Allen, Virginia in 42:37. The Cacopin 12-hour trail challenge in Berkeley Springs, West Virginia. I believe it ran, but no results yet listed, and I had a tough time finding information otherwise. On my end, pretty busy week, and this past weekend, I was able also to put on one of the few events that are running this summer, and that was the Cayuga Trails 50s, as well as the Lucifer's Crossing 10K event here in Ithaca. Both events use really beautiful courses. It stages in Robert H. Treman State Park and runs through what's called Lick Brook and over to Buttermilk Falls State Park. The 50-mile distance has a little over 9,000 feet of gain this year. Really hot day, hotter than we've had in the past, and also a tougher modified course versus prior years. 50K, I'm not sure the elevation gain, but also really burly. Particularly with a really steep climb on the Red Pine Trail late in the race, which has only been on the course in 1 year prior. And then Lucifer's Crossing starts a little bit later and covers the same add-on loop that the 50K covers. And a lot of carnage out there, as most of us had in the region this weekend. Just a wicked hot day. Also feeling pretty humid. I don't know about most areas, but our water levels are pretty low. So there's not the heavier stream crossings that we typically have when we run at the end of May. And so it was pretty tough and burly. On the men's side, Peter Flood from Liverpool, New York, put on a solid run to cross the line first in the 50 mile. but due to wave and course configuration considerations, the win went to Carson Albanese of Ithaca in 10:24. For the women's 50-mile, the win went to Sophie Kotok of Henrietta, New York, and took it in 12:07. Times were slower, as I mentioned, in prior years, but the course, I think, is fairly significantly more difficult. So for those of you who have run it prior, look forward to having you back in the mix in 2021 when we can have multi-state entrance there, and you can just see what the new configuration's like. In the 50K distance, overall win went to John Damen of Ithaca in 5:22, and for the ladies, Sarah Briggs of Endicott in 6:11. It was the inaugural 50K distance. Prior years, well, we started with just a 50-mile, which for years was the U.S. 50-mile Trail National Championship. We added a marathon into the mix a few years ago, and I modified it this year to make it a 50K, just based on a lot of people wanting that opening or 50K or ultra finish. And what it also paired with was the Loose First Crossing race. Also a reconfigured loop for this year, also adding the beastly Red Pine climb tossed into the mix. And the wins went to Alex Chacon of Rochester, New York in 52:27 and Doreen Fanton in 1:08. So really a good day out there. For sure different. I had to put in significant modifications into the event and planning to get it to go at all. The state parks felt pretty good about our plan, and I can share that with others. It's probably not anything too remarkable now from what other events are doing, if they're able to be applying for events at all, or for those looking toward their fall events. But really required a reconfiguration of our course to try to make it really one way so we didn't have cross traffic. We also had wave starts. I sent runners off with about 3 runners every 3 minutes or so. Mandatory masks aside from when you're running, including at the staging area and pre and post. We had only GOO, thanks to GOO Energy for continuing to support us or sponsor us. We had the gels, the chomps, the hydration mix at aid stations, but that was it. The aid station crews that we've had in the past, whether it be from Trails Rock or the Binghamton area trail runners, have been absolutely stellar, whether it be out there with potatoes and bacon or for Trails Rock having snow cones. Pretty awesome community, but this year obviously just a lot of that not possible. So pretty bare bones with the hydration and doing it fairly as much as we could contactless. It's a cupless event, has been for years, but runners needed to be the only ones to handle their own bottles with our crews refilling from there. And other pieces that we put into play, parks felt pretty good about it, ran all the way up to New York State Park headquarters in Albany, and they had to run it all the way up to the governor's office proper for approval. So even though the run went off and had its own challenges, including one of our sections getting stripped twice, our markers had to be out there a 3rd time as the race was starting to mark it. It still went. But with it having gone, I still feel like I need to get out a week or so before I really know whether it's a success or not, just to be sure that we were successful in the risk mitigation plan, that we don't have any new spread or transmission that was attributed to the event. And so that's a pretty heavy thing. That's not something that we want to get wrong or take lightly or just screw up on, and the reality that we're in at the moment. So fingers are still crossed. The word was from a lot of entrants that they felt safer at our event than they do at the grocery store or out in public in many places. So I'm thankful for the opportunity. And I think many had asked whether it just felt good to be out there and racing again. And it for sure did. But I think it's not necessarily about the racing. I think for most of us, it's really just about coming together as a community. For most of us, it really fits a core or integral piece of our identities and who we are. And it feels, I don't know, it's something that very much, I think, shapes us to come together and celebrate that together. Yes, it provides a goal and motivation and focus, but really, I think it provides connection. So thanks for all of those who stuck with us up to race weekend, through all of the challenges, through all the unknowns. I'm sorry to all of the entrants, which was roughly, I think, 60% of our field, which was out of New York State entrants, who we weren't able to open it up to last minute. We'll be stoked to have you back in 2021. And yeah, I'm just really thankful for the weekend. So let's see, what else shook out this past week? On the FKT front, an article that was posted on the Virginia Happy Trails Facebook site. It was actually an article in the news site 538, which I really just have an association with on the political front. But there's an article in there called "Cancel Races Aren't Stopping Endurance Athletes from Setting Wild New Records," rather. And it's from Anna Wiederkehr. And we'll have the link in the show notes. But I'll just read you kind of a summation clip from it. So will the popularity of FKT continue? Before the pandemic, Backwin and Burrell, for those of you who aren't already following it, from the Fastest Known Times website, which we use each week to pull our FKT data, couldn't have predicted that the sport would catch fire this year, and they're not sure what to expect after races can safely start again. The unforeseen consequences of a global pandemic are many and surprising, Backwin said. I would guess that once races start happening again, some of the traffic will taper off. But some people will have found a new thing that they will make part of their training and racing season rather than races. And I think I'd agree with that. I think in terms of the evolution of the sport, at least what we see in the run specialty market. For those of you who don't know, I've started 3 run specialty stores, closed one, sold one, and still have my original in Ithaca. And so have been very much embedded in running being my world for some time. First as a competitive athlete on my own, and still to a certain extent doing some events, but really on the run specialty side as well as event side. And so one of the pieces that's been changing as time goes here is the younger generations are to a certain extent getting less competitive. It's more about the experience, I think the challenge, getting out of the box, maybe becoming more personalized, but it's definitely a changing scene. And so I think the FKTs and making it more personal, I think is probably, I would agree, here to stay. And as much as I think we all hope that the COVID will pass over, I think it's also seems fairly certain that next COVID won't necessarily be far off, unfortunately. So I think some of the format maybe that we're seeing in some of the events, as well as the alternatives that people are finding, are probably here to stay for a while. But we'll plug the link if you want to check out that article from 538. So what happened in some of the FKTs out there? In Connecticut, Dan Grip sent the East Branch of the Nipmuc Trail in 6:33. And then Justin Kowski, a frequent flyer on the FKT boards, set the new mark for the Natchog Trail in 2:33. And that shaved 3 minutes off of Ben Nephew's time from just May of this year. So Justin, nice work. You just keep hammering. It's pretty awesome. So let's see, moving up, Jesse Jakobiak set a new mark of 2 hours, 11 minutes. Or actually, there might be an opening mark. I didn't get a chance to click on that one. For the Worcester, I think it's Worcester East-West Trail there in Massachusetts. In Maine, Todd Rutlinger set a mark of 19 hours and 38 minutes for the 87-mile Down East Sunrise Trail, which I think is a multi-use gravel trail that runs maybe the southeastern maybe flank or coastal area of Maine. In New York, Chris Looney set a time of 4 hours and 30 minutes for the West Side Overland Trail. And Erica Zazzara ran on a 1 hour, 50-minute mark for the Cat Mountain Trail. And then, let's see, in Vermont, Josh Ferenc, who just set a mark just a couple weeks ago, set another one of 3 hours and 48 minutes on the Kingdom Heritage Trail. So nice work, FKTers, this week. Another something I want to plug, so I'll glance around at some of the media boards or Facebook groups from this past week. And there's one person also from the Virginia Happy Trails site that plugged a book that he's working on, I think, finishing up and getting to print. And I'm going to read you a clip here from him. My name is Josh Lasky, and I'm the author of Every Step is a Gift. I wrote this book because I feel that there are a lot of people out there who are having or have had a similar experience to mine and yet feel completely alone. I don't know where to turn for support and inspiration when I chose to care for my ailing father, and like so many of us, I made it up as I went along. Now, on the other side of that journey, I'm certain that I would have benefited from hearing the stories of others who were in a similar situation to mine. Every step is a gift. Caregiving, endurance, and the path to gratitude explores my 11-year journey as a caregiver to my father while he battled Parkinson's disease. It's the story of our relationship, the lessons I've learned, and my foray into ultra-endurance biking and running. We'll plug the link in the show notes here. I would imagine there's a good number of people that can relate or in similar situations. And so hopefully you can find relation and association and inspiration from Josh's book. Check out the show notes. Help him get that book off the ground. It's a Kickstarter style campaign. So if you're interested, check it out. Make a contribution. Let's see what's coming in the events running in the weekend ahead. And this week was also pretty quiet on the otherwise podcast world and boards. So Ellie has been working pretty hard in her day job, so to speak. So she could probably use a little downtime anyway, but that was pretty quiet. One of the media pieces that she released, and so if you haven't checked it out yet as part of the Trails Collective, Ellie has done quite a bit of interviews with individuals in the trail world and endurance community from the Northeast. This past week, she released one with Jay Friedman. We've mentioned Jay in the past. He has a site called gunksrunner.com. For years, he had a pretty cool ranking system for trail running and runners nationwide. But really just knows a ton about the sport, who's who. He's an emergency room physician, as well as coach and exercise physiologist, as well as a pretty solid competitive runner on his own. So it brings a lot to the table. If you haven't checked it out yet, check out the Gunks Runner and this past week's interview with Ellie with Jay Friedman of the Pain Cave and Gunks Runner. So check it out, trailscollective.com, and you can find it under the Collective Wisdom. For all of you out there, the Collective Wisdom, I'm really intending to be open to the collective wisdom. If you have an article to share, a post, a video clip, an interview, something like that, let us know. We may not always be interested in all of them or able to accommodate all of them. If you have an idea for a series, if you are an author or videographer and want to get something more regular going, for sure let me know. You can send me a message at the Trails Collective Facebook site or trailscollective@gmail.com. So events running in the weekend ahead. The Miners Lady 8-hour in Harpers Ferry, West Virginia. And as I mentioned in a prior rundown, but I'll mention it again, quite possibly the inspiration for John Denver's song. Our course runs through the beautiful Blue Ridge Mountains down to the Shenandoah River, and it's truly almost heaven. And for me, who has an affinity and always has for John Denver, that makes me want to go run it right there and right there. So that's quite possibly, that's all you should know. You should probably check it out. Registration was still open when I looked, I think, a week ago. I'm not sure whether that's still the case. I think they were 20 runners shy of their 140-person cap. I forgot to look before the filming, so actually I'm guessing it may have capped out. But you can look it up, Miners Lady 8-hour, Harpers Ferry, and registration through UltraSignup and in the show notes. The Jugend Loop Ultra in Egremont, Mass., 4.2 and 27-mile and 6-hour options. They've gone semi-virtual this year with runners needing to run the actual course, but on their own sometime in July. The Soapstone Assault in Somers, Connecticut, one that's gone virtual as well and will put on by Schnipsit Striders. Check it out as well. It's 6 hours, and you can run it between July 25th and August 2nd. And a runner and an event that we're also following in progress on the FKT front, a supporter of the site and Patreon, big thanks to you, is Eric Kozak out of PA. He's currently en route on an FKT attempt on the 327-mile long Mid-State Trail in PA. I believe he's 4 days in and a couple hundred miles. He's really hoping for a finish in and around Friday. But as these things go, wait to be seen. It's still a lot of miles to go. Big effort. He's definitely feeling the effort, but he's moving along. So I think he's on pace to set it in around 6 days and moving well. So check it out. You can follow him on Facebook. He's Eric Kozak and has a site called Idiot Runner. And on that note, and what I'm using to send us out with a clip this week from the collective is a compilation from Krista Benshoff of the Unlucky Idiot Challenge, which Eric, who we just mentioned, working on the FKT right now, put together 2 weekends ago. So thanks all for tuning in this week on the Trails Collective Weekly Rundown. Please check out the site. Please share it. And let's continue to build this together. All right. Take it away, Krista and the Unlucky Idiot, and I'll talk to you next week. See ya! I am an idiot.
I am an idiot.
I will now run a 4-mile loop for 13 hours straight.
Oh man, the challenge probably. Just pushing my limits, and it's humbling when you actually find them.
There's something so natural about running trails. It just feels fluid, and it is definitely difficult, but like
it's not as robotic. Yeah, it's not as robotic. You feel like you're one with nature.
I feel like Pocahontas sometimes.
Jumping over logs.
Yeah.
Singing. Cacawing to people.
So Idiot Runner started in my yard 2 years ago, and at a winter run, I asked a bunch of people if they wanted to come up and run a 4-mile loop for 24 hours, every hour on the hour, last man standing event. And more people than I ever thought came up and completed the event. Idiot Runner itself has turned into more of a tribe or a group of runners through Facebook, social media, and everybody I know, and friends of friends of friends that do crazy stuff to test their own personal limits. You don't have to do the suffering idiot or last idiot standing events to be an idiot runner. Like the slogan says, we're smart enough to know how dumb this is. You're willing to test your limits, knowing what you're getting yourself into. Sometimes you go beyond that. Sometimes you don't make it, but you still try. It's kind of what Idiot Runner was started on, and the way I see it as my friends and as the tribe itself. So,
I'm 30. It was rough, but now that it's over, yeah, let's do it again.
It was awesome. Thank you, Eric. Everyone is fantastic.